Good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I am Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have an amazing guest by the name of Mark Fournier. And Mark is a 3-time Emmy Award winning filmmaker and a coach and a leader and a real life rock star. And you guys are going to love this story. So do me a favor and share this out right now. Go ahead and share it and hang on because this is going to be a great ride. Here we go. And we are back. Let me bring Mark on. Mark, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Thanks
Happy
for having me.
Wednesday. Yeah. So, Mark, we have a lot of mutual friends and connections, and Melody Meyer introduced us. You reminded me this morning,
Great
which
job.
is she's amazing.
Awesome.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And we know that one guy, that chicken soup guy. What's his name?
Mark Victor dude. He's the other Mark. That's what we call. When I say when we're together, I go. He calls me Mark 1, and I call him Mark 2. I go, because you're older than me. Technically, you should be Mark 1.
He is awesome. I love him and Crystal. But so I started this show. It's been over 4 years ago. I've interviewed over 460 celebrities and entrepreneurs. And, honestly, it was because I was stuck in life. And I thought, you know what, if I just start interviewing people, I'll figure my stuff out. And I did. So,
Oh my God.
I know.
It worked out for Napoleon Hill.
I know, right? I didn't even think about that, but that's true. So Mark, I love hearing where people started. So let's start with where you were born and raised.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I was born and raised. I'm glad you didn't say where did you grow up, because I don't think I've done that part yet. I'm working on it. But I was born in the infamous Flint, Michigan, known unfortunately worldwide for its unsavory water.
I was going to say, man, you look okay. You look all right for having drank all that nasty water.
Fortunately, that actually only affected a little part of the town, of the city itself, and we were out in the sticks, out in the rural area. And I really spent much of my time in a little town called Fenton, Michigan, which is it's a lake community. Pardon?
I have a friend that lives in Fenton.
Okay, well then they're probably pretty happy to be there instead of in Flint. And and Flint's coming back, and that's nice for them because I still have relatives there. My sister and brother-in-law, Debbie and Mick, still live there. And anyhow, so born in Flint, Michigan on Star Wars Day. May the Force be with you. So in 1957.
Wow. 57?
So I just hit 65 a couple of months ago. I'm being bombarded by all the retirement emails and
Dude, you're 65?
Yeah, in 2 months.
That's unbelievable.
I'll take that. I accept it.
Maybe I need to go drink some water in Flint, Michigan.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, but you might turn green, but then you get all muscled up. So
that is so funny.
So I stayed in Michigan until I graduated high school in 1975, where you see in Flint, everybody goes straight to the factories. That's what they did back then. There was the Chevy plant and Buick and the AC spark plugs, and you just graduated and went They didn't go to college. I mean, I can't say no one did, but there was a large contingent just went straight to the factories, and they were making more money right out of the gate because of all the unions and so on than a lot of kids were making after 4 or even 6 years of college. So, but the idea was you had a ceiling. You could only go so far if you worked for the factory. And so I was immediately voted most likely to succeed when I told them I'm leaving town.
Yeah. They're like, you qualify. You win.
Of course, if anybody from Flint watches this, I'll never hear from them. They won't be inviting me to my reunion, my high school reunion after this.
That is too funny.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I guess I
You said, "Oh well,"
a long time ago. What's that?
You said, "Oh well."
So there you go. I spent a long time getting you from birth to leaving school. Although probably one of the more interesting aspects of for somebody who has a Breakthrough Walls show is the fact that my stepdad didn't believe in paying the IRS, and so when I was 17 years old, I came home to find our house home from school one day to find our house up for auction, our cars being hauled away, and my mom in the front yard crying. And the IRS took everything. My folks left town. My stepfather was pretty abusive, so I chose not to go with them. Ended up living in a car, in an attic, a basement, anything I could do to finish school, and stayed there until I graduated, and then headed out to Phoenix so I could study architecture and design and some other interesting things. But so
you went to college then.
So and I did go to school and started at Scottsdale, and eventually did it in bits and pieces. While I was at Scottsdale, I started a company, and it took off. I was designing machines that printed textiles and doing T-shirt screen printing, and had a design company that turned into a film company, film production company, and built an ad agency around that. But the whole time, my second love was personal development. Speaking of Napoleon Hill, when I was 12, my mom handed me Think and Grow Rich and Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And I just fell in love with the human condition. The very first CD or first audio, no, it was a record I bought was Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret. And it was, I still have the record. And
do you really?
I have the original record. I get goosebumps when I think about it.
That's worth like $17 million now or something.
It probably is. In fact, I actually ended up buying one that was it was like uncirculated, because I thought that thing's probably, I've got to frame it and put it up on my wall. But then I bought the cassette when they came out until that wore out and broke. But I was hooked. And so throughout my teens, I was reading everything I could get my hands on, attending any events I could. I went to Silva Mind Control for nearly a month. I mean, anything I could do. And so by the time I graduated high school, I was stepping up on stages and doing seminars and so on at 19 years old. And so I had two careers. I had my marketing and film production career, running my screen printing, all of that running, and my personal development career running and doing seminars, and started writing books and so on. So there you go. I guess we're done.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on.
It's been a great interview.
Yeah, we're not done. We aren't getting through all that easy. So it's interesting that we have incredibly similar paths. Outside of I didn't get on stage at 19. It was many years later. But I think that I always like to dig a little bit deeper. I went through the stepfather abuse, all of that stuff too. And I think about, because I look back for many, many years, I lived with this chip of resentment on my shoulder. Right. And eventually I learned that's not healthy, but I think about like your situation. Do you feel like there was anyone or any event or events that kind of influenced the path that you took in personal development?
Well, yeah, it's a great question, Ken, because what's the spark? What moves
Yeah.
us in that direction? And in my case, my mom was very aware of the abuse, and I mean not the physical side, but she was aware of the emotional abuse and so on. And in those days, there was no such thing. They didn't use the word abuse. It
Right.
was basically, oh, my stepdad's an asshole. I mean,
Right.
that,
Right.
that was code word for abuser, right?
Right.
It was
Right.
like, oh, yeah, my dad's a jerk too. But you didn't think about abuse, much less calling child protective services. I mean, I don't even
No.
know if it existed in those days. And if it did, we sure didn't know about it. My
No.
mom was, go ahead. So I mean, you didn't think those thoughts. You just thought, he's an asshole. You just stayed away from him. So I mean, I actually one of my Emmys was for a project. It's called well, it ended up with several words. It started out as a short called "The Attic," and because I used to hide in the attic, and it was kind of a little fundraising public service ad about child abuse and mostly the effects of psychological abuse over physical. You break an arm. I mean, if you got an arm broken, it heals in 6 weeks if you're a kid. But if you have your heart broken, that can be the rest of your life. Self-image,
Wow.
self-worth, and struggling to prove yourself, and so on. And so then it expanded into something called Angry Words, and it starts out with "Dad had a bad day," and it's on the internet, and
Wow.
so it's the kid again hiding in the attic, and Dad's looking for him. He's pissed off, and he's searching the house to find this kid, and that was me, man. And so my mom,
Wow.
she had cancer. She was always dealing with issues. Her insurance was through his company, and it was, you just say, well, get out. Well, there's a reason why battered women stay, and there's a reason why abuse endures. So her way of helping us get out was something that became a theme for my life, and that's I teach both empowerment and enlightenment, and not the woo-woo kind. It's really my definition is empowerment is having the ability to influence the world around you, and that's powerful. And she wanted us to have that power, but enlightenment is 10 times bigger because it's the ability to influence the world within. And so
Mm.
she wanted to give me those
Yeah.
the mindsets. Of course, that word phrase didn't exist back then, but that's what she was teaching me, was how to develop first a survival mindset and ultimately a mindset of thriving and of being able to take control of my my states and so on. And so, excuse me. So it was really her way of protecting us from my stepdad and my real father, who was had no use really for kids, and so he wasn't abusive. He just didn't care. And we used to do something with child abuse. It was we had these billboards that said the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And
That, you know what?
yeah,
I gotta tell you something, man. What you just said, Grant Cardone literally said that on a
he
live
did.
with me. Yeah, I said, what do you do
Smart
about
one.
how do you deal with hate or something like that? And he's like, hate's not really the opposite of love. It's if I really don't like you, I don't care. Like I'm
You mean
indifferent. Like
nothing to me.
I love that, dude. I absolutely love that.
Very cool. Yeah, believe me, sitting in your seat would be an amazing. I think you chose the quintessential career. I mean, I can't think of anything that'd be more exciting than just talking to amazing people. Of course, indirectly putting myself in that category. I'm on
Well,
your
no,
show,
you're in it, dude. You're in it. So, and
but
you've
my
concreted yourself.
myself notwithstanding, with amazing people. And that would be incredible. So yeah, so indifference. So my mom was aware of both the indifference from my real father and then my stepfather. Both were alcoholics, and she was aware of that, and she was working 2 shifts, and she just knew that the only way she could help us through this was to give us these the skill sets. And I teach that as a parent, you only have 3 jobs, and one is to keep your child safe. Obviously, that's, teach them not to cut their little sister's eyelashes with sharp scissors, and play hopscotch in the in the middle of the road, and so on. And number 2 is to teach them to survive on their own when they're gone, so that when they launch, they stay launched.
Yeah.
We won't get into whether that's been working lately or not. And I love all my millennial and Gen Z clients. And then number 3 is to love them unconditionally. And then I teach that once your children have launched, then it's just one: love them unconditionally. The rest of the lessons they get to learn on their own. They get to figure out now, based on the foundation you've given them, how to create a successful life. And hopefully some of those folks are watching your shows, and of course, how to stay safe and so on. And so that was her version of teaching me how to make it on my own, was and how to stay safe, of course, was by giving me these tools. And so it didn't take long before I was using them in my life, and using them to deal with my stepdad and my real father, and the issues that came up around that. And of course, ultimately being on my own at 17, I got to put those skills to work. And it's something that I'm sure you're very well aware of. We can, where they say knowledge is power, I go, well, not really. It's only the consistent application of knowledge that evolves into power. It's potential. Knowledge is potential power. And so my coaching clients, I tell them during our coaching call every week, I say, you know what? This is the least important thing that we'll do this week. This information will mean nothing to you, certainly in 6 months or 6 years from now, unless you drive it into your life. And so I'm a mastery guy. And so I say, these are your assignments. And that's the important thing. Go apply this to your life. Next week, I want you to come back and tell me what you did with it, how it applied, what you learned from it. And those are the things that will not only change your life right away by applying it, but also that's how you're going to master this stuff. So I had a chance throughout my teens to apply these insights on a daily basis, hiding out from my stepdad and so on and so forth. So, it wasn't an instant paradigm shift. It was a gradual realization that, wow, this is where it's all happening. This is where the power is. Hope that answers your question.
My favorite spiritual author, hopefully Mark Victor Hans is not watching. I'm kidding, because he's deeper than that, but is Dr. Wayne Dyer. And in my first, he's amazing. And in my first book I wrote, that pain, and I think I got it from Dyer, I'm not sure, but pain is the predecessor of all wisdom. And there was somebody way smarter than me, maybe one of those really super famous old guys, but said that the greatest disservice we do to our children is to steal away their hunger. And I think about that, like, I have 2 daughters, and I'm like, I hate to see them go through any kind of painful situation, right? And I try to protect them from any catastrophic decisions.
Super Dad, Ken to the rescue.
Hey, right? You want to, man. You want to protect and save and all of that, but I think, and I'm coming back to your story, because when you go through the level of pain, because that's painful, man. Hiding out in an attic, scared to death for your life as a little kid, is freaking painful, and it leaves a mark, right? And
no pun intended.
That's funny. So I really think that it's that pain that has driven you to the levels of success and everything else that you've accomplished in your life. That's only my personal opinion, because I've been through it too. I get it. I can relate to it.
Oh, Ken, yes. It's obvious that you have. I can hear it in between, in the pauses and breaks. And absolutely. In fact, my life is kind of, I break it into two significant eras. And the first half was the pain and suffering. Of course, that's something that, Wayne Dyer would allude to. It's, Buddhism, life is pain and suffering. The first line in The Road Less Traveled, life is difficult. I didn't read that book for years because I thought, well, I don't want to read that. That sounds really dark and depressing. And then years later, I was like, well, he's right. It is difficult. Damn. So, okay, I guess I'll read it. And then, of course, you realize, why is it important to know that it's difficult and pain and suffering? It's once you accept it and embrace it, it's like going through the 5 stages of grief. You get to acceptance. It's like, oh, okay, well, what's wrong with difficult? Hey, my gosh, right. How many people start a company knowing it will be difficult? How many sports have you played knowing that it would be difficult? Marathons have been run. We're not opposed to difficult. We just don't like difficult to happen when we didn't ask for it.
Right. Or we had other plans.
Exactly. Right. So once you learn how to take the difficult things that life has in mind for you and put it in the same category as the ones that you take on for yourself, oh my gosh, then everything turns around and you stop being a victim. So the first half of my life, I was in the victim state. Life is difficult. There's a lot of work and it's crazy. And I was going to prove myself and prove to the world that I could do something. Of course, the whole school found out that we lost everything. They took our house. I was living in a car. And so I was poor. I was beyond poor. And I believed the thought that I need to be financially successful. I need to make a lot of money and all the trappings that go with it to prove to the world that I'm okay. And so that's the first half of my life. And I was very fortunate. And I reached that level at some point in my life once I got into my later 30s. And it was all there. I had the life that few people can even dream of. And guess what happens? You get used to it. And one day you wake up and it's like, you have a 6-car garage but no place to park your sailboat.
Yeah.
And it's like, we need a bigger house. And then you have a second house and it's like, what? Oh, that second house is so much, so much work. We need somebody, we need a guest building for a caretaker so they can watch it while we're gone. But then there's always October, whether you're in Chicago, October sucks. Arizona, it's still hot. So you've got to have your October getaway. There's no end to it.
Right.
And
well, so everybody needs a place in Hawaii though, too, right, Mark?
Well, yeah. And Hawaii's nice year round. And actually, I had a school on the Big Island in Kau, and I would fly out there 4 times a year to train my instructors and keep them up to date. I needed to do that in person.
Well, yeah.
and here's the irony. You mentioned that. Of course, Wayne Dyer had his place on Maui, but you mentioned that. And ultimately, I was complaining about Hawaii. It's like, it's you get island fever, and it's really kind of boring. You can only look at the black sand so many times, and after a while, the sea turtles aren't all that exciting. And then it's like, that's a long flight to go. So as long as we keep looking at the world around us, believing the thought that I need that world to be all these things in order to be happy and fulfilled, there's no end to it. And so that's where the second half of my life came, was once I reached that and found out I was still not really truly happy, and wound up going through a 5.5-year divorce because I wasn't happy in that life. And as painful as it was, and I knew it would be, I knew that it was not going to be an easy process. And so I decided before going into it that this would be a learning experience for me. I thought, you know what? We cannot truly grow in a vacuum. You can't build muscle in a weightless environment. You got to have gravity. to do that. And so I thought, okay, I will come out on the other side of this somehow, a better human being. And that's where the shift occurred. So after it was over, and we spent a fortune on everything, and uh, I wound up in compromised living conditions that looked a little bit like my first, the earlier part of my life. And
So
I
it
said,
wasn't like the Hawaii thing.
no, that came later.
Okay.
So yeah, and at that point I'd figured it out. And so I stopped coaching people on how to make a lot of money, and started saying, listen, if that's the only reason you called me, then I'm not your guy. And they're like, yeah, but I heard that you did this for that guy and that. And I said, yeah, and I'm sure that I can show you how to make all the money you need. I'll make sure you make enough to pay for my coaching fees, so I'll be free. But if that's all you're looking for,
Right.
I'm not your guy, man. And so I became a balance coach. I mean, I refer to myself as a life mastery and peak performance coach. But my moniker is the limitless coach, because the lessons I teach about the limitless mind and how that creates limitless potential for us. But for me, it's financial security is only 1 out of 10 critical areas of your life. And if you think that that's enough, I can tell you right now, you could be a trillionaire, but if your daughter's dying of some incurable disease, and your wife's cheating on you, and you've been given 3 months to live yourself, you can be worth 100 trillion. It's not going to matter. So
It goes
back. Yeah.
Steve.
Sorry, I
Steve
rambled
Jobs.
on there. What's that?
Yeah, Steve Jobs wrote a letter, gave a speech when he was like, it really truly doesn't. I mean, it matters when you're here, but when it's checkout time, man, like it doesn't matter. Dude, I love this. I love this. So in your mid 30s to late 30s, you went. Just a side note, 5.5-year divorce. That is a long time to get a divorce.
Yeah, that was actually later. I got married I didn't get married until I was 37. So, yeah, that was a few. Yeah, and it only ended because I found out I had cancer, and I just couldn't keep going, and so I just walked away and just said, take everything, literally both houses, all of it, the retirement, everything. I just said, I'm done. And
I got it. For everybody watching that just may have joined, Mark is 65 years old. Unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Like you don't look remotely close to 65. That's insane to me.
Oh, well, you haven't seen me try to hike one of those mountains we were talking about in Hawaii. I just got back from Kauai, and I felt 65, believe me.
Oh my God. So okay, so you went through, so you didn't get married until you were 37. Wow. So my wife says no way. It's unbelievable.
Sweet.
Yeah, Debbie says Fountain of Youth location, please. He's from Flint, Michigan. It's the water in Flint. So
I love that.
Yeah. So
I do have a program actually called Limitless Aging, and it's the art and science of aging magnificently. And there are things that we can do. So yeah, it's I just in fact did a podcast for a site called Manopause, which is pretty cool. It's for men ages 50 and older, manopause.com. Yeah. And did a program. It's in fact, they just posted it. So the art and science of aging magnificently. So I do talk about it, and there definitely mindset does play a role.
Yes.
And and having a really nice evening skincare regime. I'm kidding.
My wife says, tell us where to find that course. I have a feeling she's getting ready to spend some money. No, we'll definitely put your links up. So go back to your mid 30s. So you hadn't really at that point you hadn't made it financially and all the other stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
had already won my Emmy Awards, and I was living in
Oh,
Paradise Valley, Arizona. Geez, I moved there when I was still in my 20s, which is, that's the Bel Air of Arizona.
yeah.
And so I know I had a pretty good life and continued to
Oh,
do so well into my 40s, but it was never enough. We just kept on getting more and more. And I realized in that process, oh my gosh, it won't matter. I mean, I've won the awards, I've got the accolades, and I started doing a lot of nonprofit work. Um, Child abuse started, and that was clear back in '84. I did my first child abuse campaign to raise money and help build more beds and so on. And then it grew from the Child Crisis Center to Child Help USA to United Way, United Cerebral Palsy, Red Cross. You name the nonprofit, Child Help, Make a Wish, you name them, and I created their campaigns, almost all the top, probably 50. And there's not a lot of money in that, by the way.
yeah. Right. I've always
But I
wondered
felt
that.
like my life suddenly really started to mean something. And so I started transitioning at that point from it's all about making money to no, it's about making a difference. It's about making my life meaningful. And so that didn't go over well with those who were counting on me to make tons and tons of money. But I'd already been there and said, this isn't fulfilling for me any longer. And so the transition started before the divorce. In fact, it triggered some of the divorce.
So, yeah. So,
You don't need to go into a lot of detail there. You could connect those
yeah.
dots.
Fill in the blanks. I get it. So Mark, talk about the let's back up a little bit. I was on Glenn Morshower's acting class last night, and I sent him
He's
and
great.
it was late. It was late. And there's like another really famous actor on there and some other and so I send Glenn a private message in the Zoom, and I said, dude, I have to go. I have a 3-time Emmy Award winning filmmaker on my show tomorrow. And he replies back. He says, so what you're saying is I'm not welcome back until I win 3 Emmys. I said, dude. But I do want to back up to that a little bit. I want to talk about the because I realize that's not the direction of your life necessarily today. It's still an unbelievable accomplishment. So talk about the 3 Emmys and what they were for and how you even achieved it and what it made you feel in the moment of achieving that.
Oh, thank you. I would say that probably the most important thing is the awards are a source of validation to somebody who is who's in the business and really knows their business. They it just happens that the film and television industry happens to give awards to people who their peers look up to. But there are lots of folks out there who are in plumbers and and contractors and
Right.
Uber drivers, but they don't give awards to Uber drivers.
Right.
So I put it in perspective, and I realized that that what all that's really happening is I put something out there that I believe in, and I've just found people who agree with me, where I'm saying I believe in this product, I think that it's good, and I'm going to put it out there, and hopefully others will agree, only in as much as the fact that I want to influence them, and so they don't have the same impact on me as they might someone who is still developing their sense of self and trying to build the security and the self-worth, at which point it would be highly validating.
Yeah.
So in each case, in any time I've won an award, I already knew what I had. It didn't mean that the world would agree with me. There are plenty of directors who will say, my best film was boom, and it may be something you've never even heard of. It may have been a box office flop, but they stand by their film and say, this is the proudest work I've ever done. Yeah. And so what I teach is if you don't want the opinions of others to negatively impact you, if you don't want to spend your whole life desperately attempting to get the world to tell you that you're okay, the only solution is, of course, you've got to look in the mirror and say, I'm okay. I'm not perfect. No one is. And that's okay. I'm enough. I'm doing the best that I can with what I have, and that's enough. But what comes with that is, and this is the great paradox, is if you want to get to a point where the negative opinions of people don't have a big impact on you, you have to get to the place where the positive opinions don't have a big impact on you either. So you can't have it both ways. As long as you need their accolades, you'll continue to be affected by their criticisms and so on. And so it's kind of like you get to this place where it's, thank you for your contributions to me, whether they're positive or negative. All input is good. So if you tell me you don't like what I've done, thank you. Help me understand why, so I can make it better, so I can do better. If you do like, help me understand why, so I can do more of that. And that's all the awards mean to me now, is just, wow. Okay, so somebody says I got that one right, I'll do it this way more often. But boy, I'm just as happy to have somebody say, preferably not in front of the whole world, I don't think you did that right.
So what you're saying is you
do have a brand to protect. Yes, tell me the good stuff in front of everyone, but the dark stuff, whisper it to me and I'll be fine.
Oh my God, that's too funny. You're still affected by other people's opinions, is what you're saying. Even after hitting levels of enlightenment, everybody is. I mean, I think that
I'm working on it.
Mother Teresa probably was like, what did you just say? So I love that answer. So you're not going to go into details about your Emmys, is what you're trying to say.
Well, I think we could probably use this time to contribute more to folks than, something that they can get on, the entertainment channel. And by the way, I certainly would. I mean, out of just respect for you as an interviewer, you certainly know what your audience wants to hear. And I can say, it's fun. And and it's it's a great party, and you're the star, and that's kind of cool.
I think I'm selfish this way. It's more about what I want to know than what the audience. That's terrible. I'm just kidding. Don't leave. I'm playing. So
that makes you a great interviewer. If you happen to have a lot in common with your audience, then you're going to ask the questions they would ask.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, if you have a specific question about Emmy Awards, I could be happy to tell you.
From my perspective, it's more about, I mean, we're all out here in this world. I always say, look, nobody has it all figured out. Like nobody. And if they tell you that they do, they'll lie to you about other shit too. So
even Wayne Dyer on camera, when he found out that he was voted, did you ever see that interview where they said that the most spiritual people in the world, it was Eckhart Tolle, followed by the Dalai Lama, followed by Wayne Dyer. The Dalai Lama was not in the interview, but Eckhart and Wayne were. Yeah. He spent the entire interview basically showing that he was upset that he was number 3. And he was a pretty amazing guy, but his ego was still right there, front and center.
Ego.
Like, well, I don't know how the heck what criteria did they use to decide which one of us was number 3?
I know. If I made it into the top 10,000, I'd be like, wow, really? But I think it's more about what it takes because look, to win an Emmy or win any award or achieve levels of success or fame or whatever, it takes a certain mindset. It takes certain actions. It takes, and I think that people are.
It's called OCD.
Really?
It's called OCD. when everybody says, that's fine, we got the shot, and you go, no, I know I can do better. I know I can do this better. Or they're like the editor wants to go home. It's 3:00 in the morning. You go, no, man, there's a flash frame in there. I just know it. I can feel it. We have to go back and recut that.
Wow. Really?
It does play a role.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know I can do better.
So
That is
obsession,
yeah.
just being
Yeah,
obsessed.
obsession plays a role. There's no
Yeah.
question about it.
Yeah. So you had this shift. How old were you when you had this sudden shift in, well, not sudden, 5.5 year divorce is definitely not sudden. But you had a shift, a change. Um, about what age were you, and what
I'd
are
say I was
some
in
of
my
the
early
things?
40s is
Okay.
when it started. And it's just by then I had everything. I had surpassed my wildest dreams in terms of the lifestyle,
Yeah.
and I could pretty much do anything I wanted, and realized that what I wanted was a different life. I wanted to spend my life creating a better world, and I think that that's probably common once you reach a level of, and of course, enlightenment is a never-ending quest. There's the empowerment. The empowerment part was there. I could influence the world around me easily. The enlightenment part, as I was growing in that field, I found that, in fact, it kind of validated. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, because those two words will give you the secret to a fulfilling life. Thanks, which is living in a state of gratitude, and giving, which is a state of contribution and selfless service. And so
Wow.
the gratitude was there, but again, homeostasis. You get used to it, and it's like it's a nice house, but I can never find the kids. It's 11,000 square feet. Where the hell are my kids now? And so you're wandering around. There's always something. And so as I was working on that end of it, um, the big thing was the contribution, and I found that such tremendous um, fulfillment and meaning and purpose in this, the idea of being able to make a difference. And for some people, it's a difference in the life of one or two people. And in my case, because I was involved in media, and I was had influence, and I stood on stages and so on, I thought I can make a much bigger difference than the one I'm making. Kind of like at the end of Schindler's List, when they give him the ring that they made out of their fillings from their teeth, and all he could say was, "I could have done so much more." And
Yeah.
that's a big thing for me, is teaching myself and others how to live and die without regrets. And of course, you've heard, I'm sure, many times, we don't regret the things we did, but as often as the things we didn't do. And
Right.
so that shift happened to me in my 40s, the idea that I don't want to have regrets over a life half lived. I know I can do more. And by the end of my divorce, which didn't happen until that was in my 50s, before the divorce began and concluded, by then I was completely transitioned.
Wow. This sounds like it sounds like the Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. Like,
Yeah.
he talks about sleeping on park benches, and like, I'm like,
Yes, he
dude, what?
does.
I know.
Yes.
It's like,
There's quite a few who've been hit rock bottom. Byron Katie.
spiritually. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that when you enlightened human beings, it's kind of like I wouldn't wish it on anyone, and yet I wish everyone could experience the things that Byron Katie did. I did that Eckhart Tolle did, where you hit rock bottom and suddenly you say, "Oh my gosh!" So this is kind of like as bad as it gets. Well, all right, then what am I afraid of? So I've seen it. I've survived my greatest fears, and once you can start living your life without the fear, you're still afraid of jumping off high buildings, but you're not
Right.
as afraid of the abstract things in life. You say, you know what, whatever happens, I'll be okay. It's like the kid who you want to teach self-confidence to your kid. Don't teach him how to hit home runs every time. Teach him how to feel okay when he strikes out,
Right.
because you can do a lot more of that.
Exactly. Oh God, that's powerful, man. That's so powerful. Oh my God. Cause that is the big, I think about my kids, and like, you just like, you want them to have that feeling of exhilaration when they win, but unfortunately, you have to also, like, they have to lose. That's part of life.
And then you teach them there's no such thing as losing. By the definition, my definition of losing is the absence of growth. And you say, no, wait a minute. It's I do an event called failing your way to the top, and it's it's the saying in California is fail often, fail fast, fail often, fail fast. So hurry up and get the failures over with so you can learn the lesson so you can move on.
Yeah.
And so, once you get to the idea that there's no failure, unless you really, truly have a fixed mindset and refuse to learn a thing from it and just want to be a victim, then I guess you can experience the feeling of failure. I haven't experienced that in years and years. No matter what happens, whether it turns out the way I planned or not, I'm looking at it and saying, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I take this and use it? And you find, that can. So you want your kids to learn how to fail well, fail beautifully, magnificently.
You've used the word, and since you continue using it, we're going to talk about it. You keep using the word victim. That's like the fourth time I've heard you say victim, and I preach this myself. There are, how do I word this? There are professional victims in life. There are people who, and they don't even realize it, right? How do you shift someone from having that victim mentality to the other side? How do you get them to wake up and go, oh, because I did. I remember, like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess maybe I have been a victim my whole life. So how do you get somebody to wake up to that, or can you?
Yeah. It's yes, you can, and it's a great question, also, Ken, because a much larger percentage of the population lives in a victim. I call it a victim mindset.
Yeah,
and a mindset is much bigger than an attitude. An attitude, you can change your attitude in 5 seconds. You can have a good attitude, a bad attitude, up and down and so on. But a mindset, that's kind of the ocean that your ship is floating on, and that you can have more than one mindset. And in fact, I have multiple mindsets. In fact, I teach about that. There's a limitless mindset. There's an opportunity mindset, a gratitude mindset, and so on. And then there's the victim mindset. And the victim mindset is basically, this isn't fair.
Right.
This is not fair. And the first thing I talk to them about is I say, so how does it feel when you think the thought that this isn't fair? And of course they say, well, it makes me upset. I say, exactly. So that's a thought that you've chosen to think about and you've chosen to focus on. But let me tell you something. What if life isn't fair? What if life is difficult? And you already know that because you've been alive for so many years. What if life isn't fair? In fact, I can prove it to you. If life were fair, would children be born with deformities or disease? Would some people be born in wealthy countries and others born in poverty-stricken countries, third world nations, and so on? Life isn't fair. So what's your point? And suddenly they start, it's like an eye-opener. Okay, so now that you've accepted that life is difficult and life isn't fair, how about if we get on with our life? Because every time you think the thought, this isn't fair, it upsets you and it compromises your quality of life. Now, you don't just stop thinking it. What you do is you replace it. One of my books is called Self-Help Me, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life. And I teach the way you get rid of a habit isn't by just unhabiting it. It's by replacing it with a better habit. Because a habit is already hardwired into your brain.
Right.
And so you replace it by giving it a different course to follow, a different pathway to get to wherever you want to be until this finally stops being fed and then the habit dies out on its own. And so your mindsets can be transitioned similarly. So the victim mindset, what's the opposite of a victim mindset? So Ken, you are definitely an enlightened guy. What would you think might be mindsets that would be the opposite of a victim mindset. If a victim mindset is, this isn't fair, it's not enough, it's not good enough, what would be the opposite of that?
You're talking to somebody with 20 years of sobriety and recovery. So it comes from that book right there by Jack Canfield and Janet Switzer. The very first principle in the success principles is take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. So the opposite of a victim mindset, in my opinion, is a responsibility mindset.
Love it. Oh my gosh, you are the first person who has ever answered that question with that word.
And boom! Do I win a 6-car garage house?
How about a free coaching session, man? Because that was good stuff. The responsibility mindset is huge. And what's even bigger, you know this, but some of our viewing audience may not realize why it's so huge. Responsibility, we think of that as a negative word for the most part. Think about it. You're growing up. Who's responsible for this mess? They call it, dad yells at you and, blah, blah, blah. I didn't do it. The dog did it. Or, doing the dishes is your responsibility. We think of it as it's not a good word, but break it apart. What you have is response ability, the ability to respond. Oh my gosh, that's a gift. I have the ability to respond. Think about somebody who has ALS, somebody who has, I used to use the example of Christopher Reeve when he was still alive. I mean, what he would give to be able to, his nose itched. You can't respond. You can't scratch your own nose when you're paralyzed from the neck down. You can't respond. They give anything to be able to respond. And so when you grasp it and say responsibility, so that means that I can do something about it. Oh, so when you claim, I call it claiming, like you're staking a claim in the ground. When you claim responsibility for your life, that means that you have the ability to do something about it. It's like a victim blames. Yep. So let's think about your next door neighbor is doing something that you don't like, and you say it's my next door neighbor's fault for all these things, and he's a jerk and he's an idiot, and he's the reason why I hate living here. So you just gave all of your power to your number one enemy. Well, that doesn't sound very strategic. That's not what I want to do. He's the last guy I want to give my power to, right?
Right, right.
You give him power. Now he gets to decide whether you have a good life or not. So what's the opposite of that is, hey, I can decide what I want to do about this. And I can make it my quest in life is to be amazing at finding ways to capitalize on all the things that everybody else sees as problems. What do you think Elon Musk is doing? He looks at something that everybody says, well, that's a problem, and nobody knows how to fix it. And he goes, well, if I fix that problem, then I get $100 billion. Oh, there's another one. Hey, I could use another $100 billion just in case Twitter goes south. Oh, I could use another 100. So that's an opportunity mindset. So now you can start with your responsibility mindset.
Yep.
You're able to do something about it, and now add an opportunity mindset. And how about a gratitude mindset? Instead of complaining about what I don't have, the things that are not fair, well, how about this? What is fair? Because the world isn't fair, which means that you got a few things that you didn't want. Did you get anything you do want? Can you see? Can you walk and talk? Can you move? Do you have food in your refrigerator? Do you have someone who loves you? There are, for every one thing you can think of that isn't fair in the dark side, well, there's at least one that isn't fair on the bright side. It's like you got more than the rest of the world in this area. So those things combined start to change the way you see things. And ultimately, the victim mindset fades away, and it's replaced by someone taking responsibility for their life and looking at all the blessings and all the things that they have, and then so on, and of course, looking for the opportunities and situations that would make turn someone else into a victim. Great questions.
Wow, wow. I mean, we don't know each other that well. I have a feeling we're going to get to know each other, but I've done over 3,000 live streams, and
Wow.
I'll bet you 50% of them have been preaching to people about stop being a victim. One of my favorite things is Grant Cardone sells these on his website. I gotta show it. I love this bracelet. I've given this bracelet. I had a jar full of them. This is my last one. I need to get some more. But I've given this bracelet to problem clients in the past.
Tell me a little bitch.
Like I sometimes I'll put that on because look, we all, and I think you'll agree, we all have this I call it the devil and the angel. We all have this we can quickly slip into a victim mindset, right? So sometimes if I'm feeling victimized or I'm pissed off or I'm whatever, and I know it always goes back to something I'm not taking responsibility for. And so if I put that on, it just reminds me not to be one, not to be that. So I think that what you just said, man, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. My wife just said, the world needs this. Everyone should hear this message. So amazing. This is amazing.
Thank you, Joe. I hope to meet you one day as well.
Well, you're just right now, you're right up the road from us. So we're in Ohio. We
won't talk about college football then.
Go Bucks. So, right. Hey, everybody has to have haters. So, and there's a legend right there, Ben Gay the Third. Ben, good to see you, man.
Hey, Ben.
So Mark, I can't even believe we've been on here 56 minutes already. Wow. Okay, so let me ask you this question. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with it, but the number one answer to this is fear, and you have to do better. so the question is this: in your opinion, what do you think holds people back in life from two things? Number one, real financial success, and number two, freedom. And I do think they're related because I've been homeless, sleeping in my car, and broke, and I've been wealthy.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Ford. What is that? You asked me too fast. Ask me slower.
Here, I'll tell you mine. Mine was a 4-door Buick LeSabre.
Oh my gosh!
So they're very roomy.
Mine was not roomy. It was a compact. It was a subcompact car. It was a Ford, not a Mustang, the Escort, Ford Escort GT. Yeah, it was nice. It had a sunroof, and it was in Seattle, so the weather was not terrible. But what do you think stops people from achieving financial success and real freedom and happiness in life? Big question, man.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll make it short because I know we're at the tail end of our interview.
No, look, I always say this, it's my show and it's the internet. We can go all day if we need to, but I've
been trained in traditional media.
I know. Yeah, it's the internet.
We've got our outro at 59:30 so that they've got a 30-second segue into the next show.
John Gray was on for an hour and 32 minutes, so it's okay. Whatever.
Well, I'm not surprised. Yeah. I thought I was loquacious. John never runs out of anything to say.
He's amazing.
And he talks a little more slowly than I do, so he needs more time. He's a great guy. He's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you something that. First of all, anyone who says they have the one and only answer probably is limiting the possibilities. But there are certainly there's more than one reason for why people are not as successful as they could be, and some of it is circumstantial. Some of it is such as where they were born, when they were born. there are things that can influence them, but the truly successful individuals have certain things in common. And in fact, there was a study in regard to the most successful people in virtually all walks of life. And I've heard different numbers. The biggest I heard was they studied 10,000 different people who were the top in the top of their field, and everything from the sports, arts, money makers, the Teacher of the Year award. I mean, the best teachers, the best of everything, trying to find out if there was a common denominator. And they made a little list of what they thought their was behind their success. There was only one thing that they all had in common. And in a word, perseverance. Some of them were not that bright. Some of them were not that attractive, or not that tall, or not that healthy. Or it wasn't that, tall, healthy, white males. It wasn't that thing. It was anyone from any race, from any field, and so on. Those folks had a lot of different things going for them, but ultimately it came down to perseverance. And that's as far as the study went. And folks, I've seen people teach on the power of perseverance, but I broke it down further and said, well, wait a minute. Why do some people persevere? I wanted to go deeper. And it came down to something very simple. Belief. If you don't believe that it's going to happen, if you don't believe you're capable, if you don't believe it's possible, you will not persevere. You may try, you may start, you may, as Yoda said, there is no try. There's no do. Right. Well, what he was teaching is belief. They don't break that down, but think about it. There's no try. Try means that you don't believe. Do you try to breathe in the morning? Do you try to, it's you believe that there will be oxygen. You don't hope that there will be oxygen. You believe there will be. In fact, when it comes to oxygen, there will be. So I break it into three somebody commented on my Yoda. I just came off of a state that was very sweet, but I actually do a great Yoda, but not now. I've lost my voice. I just did a whole series of seminars. I'm starting to sound too much like Tony Robbins. Only he has bigger teeth than me.
He's like a little taller. 8 foot tall. Yeah.
I'm 6'2", and he towers over me.
I know. He's huge. Wow.
He's 6'8", I think. But anyhow, I did have a good Yoda at one point. Anyhow, so there's hope, belief, and know. Interest. I love to take words and break it down and ask the question, is that a good word or a bad word? We think hope is a great word, but the truth is hope means you don't believe. You don't hope there will be gravity when you wake up. You don't hope that you won't wake up floating against the ceiling. I mean, right. I mean, you know that there will be gravity. You don't hope. I mean, I won't go into detail, but imagine the space on the space station. When they use the bathroom and there's no gravity, that's a complicated thing. Imagine here on Earth if we didn't have gravity. Just going to the bathroom would be a hell of a problem. So, and another thing we don't appreciate, like we got. So I say, you want to replace? I know that was way too graphic.
No, I'm like, you can't unsee that. Yeah.
So we want to replace our hope with our, as well as our fear. So there's fear, hope, believe, know. And so, fear is getting in the way. We hope that the thing won't happen that we're afraid of. But once you get to the point where you believe it won't happen, it's like a superpower, because now you'll stick with it. You'll try things. And the only difference between believe and know is once you've done the thing you believed long enough, you have enough effort. Enough evidence that you finally say, well, now I know. And so that's my goal in terms of helping people get to wherever they want to be, is getting them to the know. And so it's got to start with, how can I prove to myself that I can do this? And it can sometimes be baby steps. Take that thing on that you're not quite sure of and find some version that you can do. And you do it and you lament in that. And you say, okay, now I've got this one. And if I did that, then I can do this. A big piece, which is what I love about your show, is find somebody else who did it. Break through walls. I love that, because it doesn't say silver spoon. It's not like, oh, I'm going to interview only people who were born with everything and didn't have to do a thing to get there.
Right.
That doesn't inspire me. I can't learn anything from that. Tell me about people who lived in cars and who have had overcame cancer and geez, they diagnosed me with ALS, and I went for an entire week thinking that I had ALS, and they had to come back a week later. Yeah, I've got this crazy neuromuscular thing, and it imitates ALS, but it's so rare that they just assumed it has to be ALS because it was every symptom. And they said, we'll run the test again in a week. We're going to do some more things. But the EMS tests, they're horrible tests. They stick these needles into your muscles and send electricity through your body and into your nerves. And oh my God, and you have to be awake for it. And I had to go back a week later.
I didn't even have it until they did the tests. And now, like, what the heck? Jeez.
But I will tell you this, talk about, breakthrough, people who have endured. Again, it's not, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. By the same token, I wish that everyone could hit rock bottom. I wish everyone could think for a week that they have ALS and be figuring out whether they're going to try to survive the 2 years and then have the things put in and not be able to move for the rest of their life, or am I just going to commit to euthanize myself and just be done? So sorry. Let me stop that. There we go. I know that not much of a pro. I didn't turn my phone off before our interview. But literally, how many people reach that level of an existential crisis in terms of, so will I spend the rest of my life unable to move anything but my eyes and have that life, or will I just let this thing run its course? And I don't know, maybe in a year from now, right when I'm no longer able to do certain things, then I end my life. And I got to figure that out during that week. And then, of course, when it turned out that I didn't have it, that was the last massive life change that I had. Was at this point, no matter what happens, it's not ALS. It's not ALS.
Right.
I don't care what happens. I used to say it's not a brain tumor. If I had a brain tumor, I'd go, it's not ALS. So we want to relate to people who've had things like that, who've had a hard time, who've had issues, and still come through on the other side. Not just found a way to make a lot of money, but much better, found a way to create an amazing life. That's what we did. That's what we need to see. And so it's one of the secrets to getting to that successful place is find people who've had challenges that are similar to yours, and they made it. If they made it, I can make it. And so building the belief is the antithesis of fear. So I hope that gave you at least one scenario in terms of how to get to where you want to be. And and then I'm big on moonshots. I'm really big on setting your moonshots and having something to aim for, something huge.
I totally agree. This has been an unbelievable interview. I think we're a little bit over. Hopefully you don't mind. Sounds like unknown callers trying to get a hold of you. But
that's all right. That happens about 20 times a day.
I know. It's like, I'm not answering an unknown caller, you idiots. So one last question, and my wife and I started our first office. She's got 30 years of marketing experience on a global scale, and me too. And so
I need one of those.
Yeah, right. I know. Trust me. I'm like, could you please explain that so I can understand it? Because
no kidding.
She talks up here, but so we started our first office, I don't know, 12 years ago or whatever, 13 years ago. It was right after we met. And we had a handful of employees. And one day this guy, I'm on the phone, this big old boy that worked for me walks in. He's like, hey, there's a dude in the parking lot looking in the windows of your SUV. And I'm sitting here going, why are you telling me? Go, you're bigger than me. Go kick his ass. I mean, get him out of here. What? He's like, he's got it blocked with a tow truck. And I'm like, no. no, this isn't happening.
Another
I gotta
payment,
go.
Ken.
Yeah. Everybody was getting paid except for us. And so I remember when I'm standing in the parking lot watching my car be towed away on a flatbed in front of all my employees. And it was literally like one of the worst moments of my life, man. I'm like, that's going to leave a mark. And so I was like, I remember feeling like life sucks. What's the point of living and going on? And this is bull crap and all of the stuff. Right. And for the people who are watching that may be at that place where they're hanging on by a thread, they don't know they you know I love Tony Robbins talks about when somebody says they've tried everything, and I'm like, really, you've tried everything? But they feel like they've tried everything and their business isn't working or things just aren't working out. They can't afford a Mark or a Ken. They can't pay a coach to help. Like, what do you say to that person to help them get through that horrible moment and know that things are going to be okay?
Oh, I love that. Another great question. And I obviously run into that uh, frequently enough. Um, you begin by helping them understand just the nature of reality, and um, that what they're experiencing, when you break it down, it's an interpretation. They are looking at the world around them and they're interpreting it. And they're interpreting it in a way that causes them pain, frustration, fear, um, uh, whatever they're going through at that moment. It's not the thing that happened that's causing them all that pain. It's how they're looking at it and what they're focusing on. And so my definition of reality is a story that you believe. So it takes us back to the power of belief. And that's one of my events. In fact, it's called the power of belief. And so so what I do is I have them tell me their story. And by the time they finished telling me what their story is, that, life isn't fair and so on and so forth, then we break the story down and I ask them, does that story serve you? How does it make you feel? And we talked about that earlier. And of course they say, it's terrible. I hate being here. I don't want to feel this way. And I say, all right, then help me punch holes in this story, because I guarantee you there's an infinite number of stories about everything and anything. You've chosen one that doesn't serve you. And let's see if we can come up with some other stories that are equally plausible. See, you've chosen a story and now you're looking at for proof that that story is true. And Goethe wrote, we see what we're looking for. And so you'll find some proof that this story is true, that your life sucks or whatever it may be. But I'd like you to, once again, it's like, how do you get rid of a habit? You replace it with a different habit. How do you get rid of a story that doesn't serve you? Is replace it with a story that does. So now I'm not saying an implausible story. Write a story that could be true. And I help them do that in that case. And so once they start writing stories that would serve them, that would make them feel better, then we start looking for proof that that story is true. And we find it. And as they start to believe in a new story, their reality shifts. And I call it being on the dark train when they're in that dark space. And so we shift them onto the bright train. And what happens is we're just changing the filter. So you've got the dark train, you've got the filter that's saying problem, 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 and you replaced it with opportunity, opportunity. So there's a problem filter, opportunity filter. And what is the difference? I mean, there's an opportunity is just a problem that somebody decided to do something with, take advantage of, instead of something that they decided to hide behind and be a victim to it. So once they start to move into this, and it's a great, powerful place to be, to recognize that this story that doesn't serve me may be just a half-truth. But that means that these other stories also have just as much potential. I tell people, you always look at the worst case scenario and freak out. Well, at the very least, give best case scenario equal time. Isn't that fair? Give me, well, what's the best case scenario? And it'll probably be somewhere in the middle, which isn't nearly as disastrous as you may think. Wow. And so I'll finish with this simple thing that often happens when I'm teaching somebody. Just replace this with a story that does serve you. And they're going, well, you're just telling me to make up a story. You're telling me to live in a fantasy world. And I smile and say, you already do. You just don't realize it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's so true. God, that's true.
I'm just turning you into the writer of your fantasy instead of the victim of your fantasy. You didn't just read this story, you wrote it. Now let's get good at that.
Wow. Wow. School's out. Like that. Wow. That was incredible. Mark, you are freaking unbelievable, man.
Well,
wow.
You're fine. Thank you, Ken. This was my first podcast. How'd I do? I'm kidding. It was my third.
I think there might be a future in it for you.
Yeah, I decided it's time to start doing podcasts, but I think I'm going to enjoy them.
You're fun to interview. You're filled with so much wisdom, and I'm so grateful. So thank you to Melody Meyer for introducing us.
Yeah,
and we know Mark Victor Hansen would have eventually. Sometimes I think, Mark, you're not sitting around wondering who you could refer to me to be on my show. Why you act so busy?
I know, it's the damnedest thing. I get my phone calls from him. It'll be like 5 a.m. Mark, have you been thinking about this? I can't stop thinking about it. What do you think we should do? Can you think you could have it ready by 8? 8 what?
I know.
This morning. I'm like,
I know.
Good morning, Mark.
Yeah, right. You were my alarm clock, but thank you. So, hey, listen, hey, by the way, let me put this up on screen. What's your website address? Where can everybody find out more?
Well, you can see it right back there. That's it.
TheLimitlessCoach.com.
That's it. Dude, LimitlessCoach.com.
Coach, I'm typing it out, .com. Is that it right there?
That's it.
Okay.
It's like you spelled it right.
Is that where your programs are, everything for people to follow you and buy from you and all of that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're amazing. People love you. Look at all these, and it's mainly women. Oh. I'm kidding.
Oh.
I'm kidding. No, you're amazing. So Mark, thank you for coming on and spending some extra time with us today, sharing your wisdom. Thank you to everybody who's watched. If you have not shared this out, normally I would call you selfish, but I understand. So share this out, and there will be great rewards for you in your very near future just by sharing. So thank you so much. Ken.
And I appreciate you. And I will say my only plug is my favorite course of all is my Life Mastery course, and that's on the site. And it's a 12-week course that's followed by another and another for however long you want to work on mastering your life. So that's the thing I'm probably the most proud of. But thank you so much for having me on, Ken.
Incredible, man.
I believe we will stay in touch.
I know we will. And I have your cell phone number now, so I'm going to stop.
I can run, but I can't hide.
Right. I'll be the unknown caller every day. So thank you, guys. Appreciate all of you. Mark, I really appreciate you. My wife wants to know what's the best social media platform to follow you on?
Well, that's the other thing about the podcast. I just started launching social media because it's so much business from word of mouth, seminars and coaching and so on. But once I decided, okay, it's time now, I want to reach the world. And so we just launched it, but we just launched a Facebook and an Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. So those things are, and we're starting to populate them. This will go up immediately. And so Facebook's probably the most robust of them at this point. But my new social media team, I'm sure, will come
And
up
what
with
is
all sorts of things.
is it the Limitless
Oh yeah,
Coach?
Mark Fournier.
Oh, Mark Fournier. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Keep
So
it simple.
follow Mark everywhere, everywhere. And if you can't
Yay.
find him, let him know he needs to be there.
That's great. Yeah, my Instagram is just Mark Fournier.
Okay.
So you can
All
remember how
right.
to spell it. You're there.
Fournier. Mark Fournier. Mark, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much.
You
And
too, Ben.
everybody, go ahead and share. Even if you've already shared it, share it again. Mark, have a great day. Stay with me, though. Everybody else, have a great day as well. And we will see you later. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.